Well, welcome to the Debt Matters podcast, where we help Canadians find solutions to their debts with licensed insolvency trustees from across Canada. I'm Wayne Kay. Today, we're going to be diving into a very deep topic regarding addiction and debt. My guest today is Matt Fader with Allan Marshall and Associates, with offices in the Maritimes, in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Prince Edward Island. Matt, thank you very much for being here today.
Great to be here, Wayne. Thank you.
This is going to be a big topic because I'm sure addiction and big debt, you probably see this go hand in hand quite often.
Yeah. It is certainly something that we see, and not in your stereotypical forms of addiction. Addiction is evolving. So we're certainly seeing some of the ramifications of that.
Oh, okay. So when you talk about addiction evolving, what are you talking about? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, historically, when you think of people addiction-wise, you're thinking of the substance abuse. And what we are finding now is there's, especially pandemic-wise, substance abuse stuff is currently certainly rising. However, we're seeing a lot more in the areas of, typically it would be classified as gambling, but a lot more pay to win, pay to play type of apps on your phone. Are where we're seeing a lot of money being spent in small little denominations, just as they get larger and larger. So it's a bit of a tricky time to have a little bit of a less conventional addiction, such as a gambling or I don't know what the technical term would be, but it is that interaction where you're not ingesting yourself with a chemical per se, but you're getting that stimulus from the wheels spinning, which you would typically see in typical gambling, versus playing the little game online matching games where pay for an extra spin or do whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
We are actually seeing an increase of that when you look at people's credit card statements or things like that. You see a lot more stuff getting purchased through iTunes or through the Google Play Shop. And that's where a lot of it's going.
Well, they're masters at getting us to spend more time on our devices, and they will do anything. And when I say they, I'm talking about, the app developers. These guys are brilliant, and they want eyes on screens. And so it is addiction these days, for sure. Social media is an addiction. And what happens to us? I guess we're looking to get lost because the stress levels and anxieties levels that people have been experiencing for the last couple of years are like we haven't seen before.
Absolutely. There's idleness that comes with it, right? Of I'm sitting at home, I'm bored. There's only so much Netflix that I can watch or whatever, and they're looking for the escape, and it's an easy escape. And the unfortunate thing is it is so accessible. As I said, it's not like your conventional type of addiction where you would say, well, an alcoholic who feeds their addiction with alcohol, you could say, well, don't buy booze, and maybe that will help. Mm-hmm. Spoiler, it doesn't. Addiction goes a little deeper than that. But I mean, it is treating a symptom of the disease, where this is really something that is on the rise as far as accessibility to age groups too, that other types of substances wouldn't be available to. So you can see the type of, app type of addiction striking older people who are sitting at home on their couch, playing on their phone and banging off $1 purchase here, a $5 purchase there, completely losing track of their spending. And then before you know it, they're saying, well, my credit card's maxed out. So it has a unique impact in that it affects pretty much anybody that has access to it, or that can be susceptible to those types of impulses. So it certainly does create a major problem, not only when it comes to amassing the debt, but also to a form of treatment, I guess, is in abstinence from it. It's like, how do you unplug from it? Like I said, it's kind of when an alcoholic makes a decision to say, I'm going to give up alcohol, they stop drinking and they get treatment. For somebody they can stay away from it. For somebody who's playing on their phone constantly, you almost have to go to a flip phone to avoid it, right?
Yeah.
And who wants to do that?
You're absolutely right. I think that's some major points that we need to discuss. typically too, if you say, okay, where's dad, where's mom? Oh, they're at the casino again. You start to pay attention to maybe this is leading to an addiction regarding gambling. Where now, I haven't seen my father's credit card statements. I have no idea if he's gambling on his phone or his tablets or what he's doing. I haven't got a clue. And it's not something that I would discuss because I don't know, right? Whereas if he was traveling to, where are you today? Well, I'm at this casino. I'm at that casino all the time. Then I would be questioning. So I think it would almost be very difficult for anybody in the family to notice there's a problem.
Absolutely. And typically the problem only becomes apparent when the statements or when the bills stop getting paid, or, when those debt problems, the problems that arise from not being able to satisfy our obligations pop up. And again, as part of my job as a licensed insolvency trustee, not only are we there to say, well, we can help clear up the debt problem, but there is an underlying issue there that as we go through the counseling that's required, where we have to be able to identify that type of behavior, and then to be able to say, okay, well, here are some additional resources, because for some people are still unaware of it. Mm-hmm. It's not a problem because the conventional mindset is that I'm not ingesting anything. So therefore, how can I have a problem if I'm not actually eating something or ingesting something? So there's a general unawareness or just not the ability to see it as it exists. So it can be a little tricky from that standpoint, but that's our job, is to go through those when we have somebody who's running in those debt problems, to sort of look at them and to have a discussion with them about them, to maybe say, well, you might want to look at that, and here are some resources that are available to get a little bit more assistance or information, because everyone's susceptible to it, and it's something that, again, when you're not aware of, if you're not watching for the problem, you're not going to see the problem.
Yeah. What about when you look at addiction versus overspending? How do you kind of tell the difference between those two?
It's a little tricky, right? Because overspending exists in all facets of life, right? And it's, how do you define it? You'll have people that will be have quote unquote addictions to buying things on the home shopping network or things like that, which are very simple to track. But at the same time, if you have somebody who has an issue with compulsive eating, that's going to be hidden a lot deeper in their grocery bill or their dining lunches in restaurants, or things that sort of, I don't want to say go beyond the realm of normal, because there's not really such thing as normal. But at the same time, you have to be sort of attuned to that, to say, where could these potential problems lie? Because overexpending is so broad. Everyone overspends. If you say, well, I'm just getting by on my basic needs of food, warmth, and clothing and shelter, and under Maslow's needs hierarchy, then you say, well, we can all live a very monastic and just my basic needs are provided for. But everyone will indulge in some way, shape, or form. And one person's overspending is relative to what the income looks like for the person. So it is difficult to sort of pin down. Somebody who says, I'm a family of one, I make $1,200 a month. For them to go to McDonald's once a month, they might say, well, that's overspending because they're breaking their budget. I would say it's okay to do that, to treat yourself, in moderation, but it is all relative to the situation. But that becomes an issue of identifying, I guess, shortcomings in human nature, or identifying where those impulses lie for people, to say, these are your danger areas. These are the areas where you need to be a little bit more attentive, because it's a very slippery slope. And it only takes one or two terrible decisions for you to live with years of consequence from. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but as you keep talking, I just keep going back to thinking about everything that we do online. Everything is so easy now that you can see how it can become, you buy this, you buy that, and you don't even need it, but it's on sale, and it makes it so simple. And then they are
100%.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and I mean that's part of the psychological aspect
Right.
of bundling. Like we see it in the grocery store, of course. Hey, buy two for $4.
Yeah.
Okay, well, do I need two when one is $2? Well, maybe not, but because it's got this big sign, hey, you're going to save if you buy two. You're like, great, I'll do it. I'll save the money. But then, of course, in that scenario, you just tend to consume more.
Yeah.
And somebody who's like, oh, I'll buy 2 bags of chips, one for this week, one for next week. Yeah, whatever, right? They're both gone by the next night. So who you kidding, right?
Yeah.
So that is part of the marketing to it. If you make it affordable, people will buy it, but then you try to sell in bulk.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going through your iTunes store and you're like, oh, look at that, here's some $5 movies. Well, before you know it, you've bought 10 $5 movies because you thought, oh, I'm saving money because they're cheaper and they're normally $20.
People buy movies?
They do.
Really?
Yeah. So a lot of people do support artists and whatnot.
Well,
we won't go down that road.
Okay.
It's not an ethics podcast. It's a money management podcast.
Okay. No, I was like thinking about with all the streaming services and all the free movies, even on free websites, that they're all there. I can't even imagine renting one, but
come on. Sometimes you just, I really want to watch Rocky and you're like, oh, it's not on Netflix. So where am I going to find it? Right?
There you go. That's funny. Are there some common misconceptions that are out there regarding addiction and debt?
Oh, 100%. Because your biggest common misconception about addiction is that, it's a hobo on the side of the street or something like that. And that a lot of people are immune to it, where it's not so much that simple, and everyone it can put themselves in that position. So it is very much cunning, baffling, and powerful, to quote some of the literature, that any form of addiction, it will be sneaky. Right. It's not going to smack you in the face, because if it was something that was obvious and apparent, I will do this and it will completely torpedo or 180 my life, people are probably less likely to do it. So by nature, it has to be deceptive. It has to be something that people are unaware of to fall into the trap. And then it has to be difficult to recognize when you're there, because that's how we get overwhelmed. That's how we get buried in it. So it is a very tricky thing. And again, it wreaks havoc with your finances. And an alcoholic will tend to consume alcohol. And as a result of that, their budget, that becomes their focus. That becomes their obsession. So therefore, their money gets ingested into feeding that obsession. And as that obsession grows, of course, it wreaks even further and further damage in the finances. And if you expand that out to say, how does this affect the family dynamic? You can see how that can definitely have a cascading effect on not only the family social structure, but on larger issues as a whole, through job loss, through reliance on social services, and a whole bunch of other negative impacts that come from it. But that translates into everything. It's not just alcohol. It's not just somebody who's smoking meth or crack or some kind of dry good. It can extend to the person at the casino, the person who's playing on their phone, the person who is susceptible to overeating. Yeah. It wears so many different faces and so many different masks that it's actually terrifying when you stop and you look at it. And when you're faced with this stuff on a regular basis, and you're dealing with people who their root causes go far beyond just the fact of saying, well, I wanted to have this, so I bought it.
Are you finding that many of these situations that we're talking about regarding the addiction and the debt, are they from single people or are they from couples? And
all over.
All over. Is there
all over. It would know no type of age group. It knows no race. It knows nothing. Everyone.
Wow.
So everyone is susceptible.
What's your advice then for couples, maybe?
Well, for couples, it can be a little bit trickier, right? I always would treat any type of couples work when it comes to money management is budgeting is a team sport. 100%. Yeah. Your finances have to be a team sport. You can't show up saying, I got my hockey skate and my stick, and have your spouse show up with their broom ready to play Quidditch. You have to be playing the same sport. You have to be on the same team. Okay. If you're not, you're going to work against each other. And that's one of the problems, with people who say, well, what's mine is mine, what's theirs is theirs. Yeah, sure, it can work, but it is a team sport. And you have to be honest and you have to be open, especially with your partner, to say what's going on finance-wise. Secrets keep us sick. And those are major problems, not only to budgeting, but to relationship issues. Mm-hmm. And yes, one person's behavior is absolutely going to affect the other. Yeah. Especially if they're running on their own and now they can't maintain their end of the bargain. So, if you're saying, well, I pay my half, they pay their half, and one partner comes up short, the other partner's pulling the weight, but at the same time, they may not actually be financially able to do that. So it can certainly spiral out of control very quickly if you're not transparent with your finances.
Or one couple who's making more money seems to be doing great, and the other one's struggling even though they're married. And then that doesn't cause any good in a marriage.
Well, yeah. And I mean, every situation is unique. There's not a template of saying this is what it plays out as. So it's very, very tricky. And, mental health plays into it. We're going to see an increase in a lot of mental health issues over the coming years with better diagnosis, better treatment. It's great to say, we can integrate more people into the working world that once upon a time weren't able to, through positive treatment, through just a better understanding of the way that people operate. But at the same time, sometimes those social skills end up being lacking. Focus is different, and that creates problems with budget. So we're going to see a lot of problems in the future with mental health. We're going to see a lot of problems. A particular one that I'm starting to catch a glimpse of would be somebody with high functioning autism. Very bright, very focused, very, incredibly smart in all respects, but focused on a task at hand where other matters fall to the side.
Wow.
And then, I have a debtor who makes great money, fantastic computer programmer, probably one of the smartest people I've ever met in my life, but struggles in knowing how to pay a bill. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're working with, is you're saying, okay, well, it goes beyond what I would do to say, I got to teach somebody how to do that, but it's recognizing it and then encouraging that type of behavior to say, you have to go outside of this to find that additional help and to find those resources available. So there's a lot of issues that are coming that extend from addiction, from mental health issues.
Yeah.
I don't want to get on a sidetrack on that.
No. Well, Matt, this, I think it was brilliant information. If maybe somebody listening is saying, wow, they're speaking my language. This is kind of what I'm going through. And they're speaking exactly to me, and they can reach out for help, and they can do that with you through your website.
They can, yes. wecanhelp.ca. We operate in Atlantic Canada. We're going to be opening up in Alberta, so we're going to cast the net a little wider and hopefully be able to help a lot more people.
Well, that's terrific. Well, Matt, thank you very much for all the great information.
I hope it was helpful, if not terrifying, but hopefully somebody out there got some, at least is triggered enough to say, if you're running into problems, pick up the phone, especially money-wise, pick up the phone and call Trustee. That's why we're here.
Absolutely. Matt Fader, my guest today with Allan Marshall and Associates. And once again, the website is wecanhelp.ca, and you can get a free consultation with Allan Marshall and Associates. And that's it for the podcast today. It's called Debt Matters Podcast, and we'd love it if you could subscribe wherever you get your favorite podcast from. And of course, if you want some more information about us, you can check out debtmatters.ca. Thanks very much for listening.